Hi, everybody. Welcome to another chat with Chaudhry. I hope you're safe and well. Now, you may know that it was a very large event which happened in New York last month, DCAT week, and sadly, I could not make it. However, my guest was there, and we're going to use this opportunity to get some feedback as to how the event went as an overall event, but also from an Abzena point of view. And I'm delighted to be joined by Campbell Bunce, who is the Chief Scientific Officer at Abzena, and he and the senior management team were at DCAT week. So we're going to do a quick review of how the event went and his thoughts on some of the trends that actually he saw emerging from the event as well. So Campbell, first of all, it's lovely to meet you. How are you, first of all?
Good, thank you, Rizwan. Yes, it's nice to meet you.
Well, it's lovely to meet you as well. Now, as I said, we're going to talk about DCAT, but before we do that, maybe you can give us a quick overview of your role, your background, and also Abzena as a whole and what it does.
Sure. So I'm, as you say, the Chief Scientific Officer at Abzena. I've been with Abzena come up for 10 years now. So saw the business through our growth from a UK public-based business to privately held growing business where we built into the US and we built across our business as a CDMO from discovery all the way through to manufacturing, and promised the investors during that kind of growth that we were going to bring into our services GMP manufacturing for biologics and bioconjugates. So over those 10 years that I've been here, we've managed to do that very successfully and integrate from discovery to GMP manufacture. We do that across 3 sites, one in the UK, in Cambridge, UK. So as I always say, the original Cambridge, where we focus very much on the early sort of drug discovery, design, lead candidate selection, into cell line development. And then we push those lead candidates onto our manufacturing capabilities in the US, Biologics in our site in San Diego, flagship site that we have there, state-of-the-art equipment that helps us run process development, scale up and manufacture, but also it's accompanied by a lot of sort of analytical method development and QC testing for release and stability. In our Bristol site, that's Bristol near Philadelphia, we have a lot of synthetic chemistry expertise, and that links to our bioconjugation services that we offer. So a lot of synthetic chemistry expertise for linker payload, sort of optimal route of synthesis, and again, scale up and manufactures GMP, and also bioconjugation, process development, scale up and manufacturing capabilities there as well.
Brilliant.
Fully integrated service. Prior to joining Abzena, though, I spent 20 years in emerging biotech. And it's one of the things I think we do extremely well at Abzena, and it's partly because of that experience. You know, we've brought in that kind of sense of urgency, sense of, getting the biggest bang for our buck, and going through those value inflection points in drug development so that, we can convince investors to part with their money so that we can continue that development process, but also get to IND quickly and then into patients in a way that, we're getting new, important drugs to better treat diseases of unmet need.
That's brilliant. Well, look, we'll talk a bit more about that a bit later on, actually. But obviously, you talked about investors and customers as well. DCAT week obviously is one of the major events of the year within the CDMO calendar, where obviously not just the commercial but the scientific team like yourself will go to meet existing and new potential customers, but also look at what the trends are going on across the sector. So, from your perspective during DCAT week, in terms of the topics that you were talking, what are some of the key things that you were talking to people about? And what were some of the key trends that you identified during the meeting?
Yeah, this is my second DCAT actually. I went last year and this year, and I was actually really surprised because initially I thought this was, it's a big procurement, it's in my head, it was a big procurement, big pharma type of event. But actually, there's a lot of diverse sort of drug developers there, from early biotech through big biotech, pharma, obviously, a lot of different contract organizations, including ours. And as I've kind of described, ours covers a lot of bases. You know, we're fully integrated, say, from discovery through to GMP manufacture, a lot of analytics, formulation development associated with that. So we spoke about a lot of things to a lot of diverse customers. So that was pretty exciting for me because I like to think of this very holistically. You know,
Sure.
if we've got an idea, you know, going from brain to bench to clinic. So it was good for me because we spoke about a lot of different areas of what we do and what customers need, what drug developers need. But I would say there's probably two, maybe in terms of technology and capabilities, one area that's really important is cell line development.
Right.
You know, we see a big demand for speed in cell lines, you know, going from gene to production cell lines as quickly as possible, but also making sure that the productivity and quality continues to be improved in those platforms. So cell line development was one area. Another area, and I kind of said it there a minute ago, which is speed and efficiency. We got a lot of that. I think there's a lot of expectation from drug developers to, as we said earlier on, get to patients as quickly as possible. You know, time's money, and a lot of the people we spoke to are from folks from emerging biotech. So they need to know that they can get to those value inflection points as quickly as possible. So that kind of gene to GMP material, again, was a focus, and how we can do it as a CDMO and what kind of things we employ to do that, whether it's our platform technologies like cell line, whether it's our expertise and knowledge, and in particular experience with you know, some of the new modalities that are coming through as well. So yeah, a lot of time was spent discussing that kind of time and urgency. The other thing was, you know, how to de-risk drug development.
Yeah.
You know, if they're going to contract organizations like ours, you know, it's a very fragmented sort of sector, and it's kind of, there's a lot of risk and time involved in, you know, having to manage across different contract organizations for different deliverables to come together at the same time to satisfy the regulators that the drug should be taken into patients. So yeah, again, there was a lot of discussion around, you know, how can that process be streamlined? What's the contract organization sector doing to support and de-risk drug developers? And, you know, again, you know, what we were doing ourselves as Abzena to do that.
And one question I'll ask you, talking about sort of more greater efficiency and productivity and speed, is how often was AI and automation then brought up in those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I personal views on AI. I mean, I think the AI can be used at all different sort of levels, however we
Sure.
describe AI. I think we
That's a
kind
very
of
fair point as
conflate
well. Yeah, yeah, you know,
conflate
that's a fair
AI
point.
with
Yeah, yeah.
a bunch of other things. But I think from a technical perspective, I mean, it's something that we are actually very interested in ourselves. But from a technical perspective, where we can use sort of machine learning into AI is in the design process up front.
Right.
You know, how to design biologics, you know, with optimal efficacy, with minimal risk, you know, in terms of stability, productivity, safety.
Right.
And also in processes, you know, looking at AI around processes, so gathering data of our experience in particular sequences, you know, how well they've or how easy they've been to produce through our cell line, and how they marry against a sort of platform process, and what we've done in terms of culture conditions to improve that. So we can feed AI, if we call it that, into improving those processes and therefore de-risking and speeding up so that we do less process development. But there's also AI, as they call it, in bringing together documentation as well, you know, pulling from information that's there and more rapidly creating, you know, the dossier, I guess, for IND submission. So it's coming up in all sorts of areas, and we're seeing some of the fruits of, you know, people's labours in that. But it is a term, I think, that's bandied around a lot to try and attract in business as well.
Right. Okay. Well, look, thank you for sharing that, Bill. Now, I know Abzena actually sponsored a session as part of the educational conference program on supply chain resiliency. So, why is that such an important topic for Abzena to be linked with?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's a risk. Supply chain is a risk, and particularly when it comes to the expensive side of things in manufacturing. And you know, a solution, of course, is to hold large stocks at large expense within, you know, our own sort of facilities. But we kind of don't want to do that because it is at risk. And also, and maybe we'll come to this later, but also we're seeing new developments, new trends in drug types and modalities. So we do have to consider the impact of adjustment to process, adjustment to platform. So we don't want to be holding at large expense, you know, media, resins that, you know, we might not use. But the customers we work with also, you know, most of them are emerging biotech, some big pharma. But the emerging biotech can't afford to buy into materials too soon. You know, they can't sort of take the risk of the expense when they don't know the product's going to come through proof of concept or even, you know, we're going to make a successful cell line. So we need to be working with, you know, the supply chain, the providers in a more agile, sort of responsive way if we can. It's how we've developed our reputation at Abzena, very agile, very responsive solution providers. So, you know, working with media suppliers, resin suppliers in a way that aligns with that is important. But as we see the money coming back into the market as well, and more drug development happening, which is, you know, great to see. We're seeing that trend across the sector. Capacity becomes in higher demand, and so too does material supply. So yeah, it is a big concern of ours, and you know, we're looking to make sure we work in collaboration, partnership with these critical material suppliers.
Right. Well, you mentioned emerging modalities. Now, again, as a company, you sponsored the keynote talk, which focused on new and emerging modalities. Now, obviously, Abzena is well known for the work you're doing around ADCs, which obviously aligns with that particular area. But what other emerging modalities do you see rise, which you as an organization can support?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that certainly I get very excited about is the kind of, you know, novel disruptive technologies that come along and sort of stand on the shoulders of those successful drugs we've seen in the past. So your vanilla antibody, I say vanilla, I mean antibodies that have been enormously successful on the blockbuster drug front. ADCs now, we're seeing the antibody-drug conjugates continue to gather momentum. And we see more and more of ADCs coming into the clinic and being approved. So, you know, those things, I think the sector understands, you know, antibodies, don't think they're going to go away anytime soon. So fine, you know, there's still room for them. ADCs, your classical ADCs with your antibody and your toxin for cancer. Again, those are going to continue to develop. But I think in the biologics front, what we're seeing more and more is, there's probably no surprise, but we're seeing bispecifics. Bispecific, such as T-cell engagers. We're seeing a lot of news around T-cell engagers as the potential next-gen CAR-T kind of therapeutics. And I'm not surprised that's the case. We're through Blincyto, we've learned a lot about how to efficiently design and make antibody-like structures that have dual functionality. So, we're seeing more and more of that, which is great. It's really exciting for the team to be working on those kind of things, and designing those things. We get really funky things coming through. So, while you get a standard bi-specific using knob-into-hole technology, we're seeing sort of fusion protein type designs where, one arm's maybe a VHH and then there's another's a cytokine on it. And of course, that comes with challenges around how to produce these. And so that's where, earlier on, I was talking about cell line development being one of the kind of key points of focus with the drug development community for those new next generation biologics. And the bioconjugate side, yeah, I mean, classical ADCs are continuing to thrive and grow. Part of that is, optimizing the conjugation kind of technology, the linker architecture, to accommodate, some variations on the theme. So looking at dual cytotoxins, so being able to plug on not just one type of cytotoxin, but two that, affect different sort of aspects of tumor growth, fast-growing cells versus slow-growing cells. But also new cargoes, so new functional modalities. So, Dine and Avidity have really driven the interest in oligoconjugates or antibody oligoconjugates. And we're seeing a lot more of those. And again, it's quite a new modality that needs design elements around it for stability, needs analytics, method development for characterization, relation stability testing, activity as well, bioassays, etc. So, we're really fortunate to see a lot of these new modalities coming through. And excited to be part of that as well. We've helped get a few of these into the clinic.
Right. Well, that is all sounding like exciting stuff. So we have to look out for those. Now, the other thing that happened at DCAT while you were there was I know that CDMO, there were the CDMO Leadership Awards. And looking at LinkedIn, everyone is announcing they've won an award. But you guys actually won the Champion Award for Biologics. So, and you actually beat out 17 other CDMOs. So first of all, congratulations on that. But as a business, what does that actually mean to you, both internally and externally? I mean, how important is it for you to win these sort of awards? And how do you sort of utilize that, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, I should have worn my badge actually. Give it the badge.
You should have had a trophy by the table or something so you could have put it up.
Yeah, that's right. It's in the US just now, and I'm currently in the UK. But yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's actually difficult to say because this is going to be cliche, but I think I mentioned earlier how I get excited by new drug modalities coming through and getting the opportunity to work in those. So hearing that we actually won, I think my colleague Joe Principi, our Chief Commercial Officer, he called it Best in Show.
Yeah, I know Joe as well. I can imagine him saying that.
Yeah, I kind of like that. So that we were at some dog show, but yes, so it was actually very exciting. And I think the reason it was exciting was just the recognition, because you work hard. We've got an amazing team, of scientists, people that are highly technically capable of doing some really incredible things. And, so when we get that award, and we got that award, I think there was more a testament to the team, the team that actually deliver for our customers. So I think there's a little bit of excitement around that. It kind of validates their kind of reputation that they've been building, because I mean, we shouldn't forget that from an Abzena perspective, we're an emerging CDMO. We're still pretty young. But so to get that recognition at DCAT is obviously very exciting, but also, kind of satisfying as well to know that we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, sure.
As
Well, actually,
value.
If there's 17 other CDMOs in this, there's obviously a very competitive category as well to have won that. So,
Mm.
I mean, so genuinely congratulations on that. I mean, do you think that uh, prospective customers take note of things like awards, though? I mean, you're a Scotsman, so you're going to be cynical by nature anyway. So, but what do you think from that point of view? I mean, does the market actually take those awards serious enough to think, well, actually, we should be working with them on that award?
I I would like to think there's some kudos to it. I mean, I would like to think there's some sense that actually we've been recognized. I mean, yeah, we've been recognized because reputation is everything
Yeah, that's true.
in the contract organization sector. And you know, you can have a couple of bad kind of experiences, challenging molecules or whatever, and then you know, if word gets out, there's a reputational issue. So I think it actually supports the fact that I mean, this was a customer voted thing, I think. So I think it really endorses the fact that, you know, our reputation is good. It's one for other, hopefully new customers to pay attention to. So I think there is an element of that. I mean, obviously there is a bit of kind of cynicism around, you know, next year, will people remember that? But you know, I think we should take it for what it is, and that's recognition by our customers, and hopefully
Yeah,
we
well, that's
can
true,
use
very
that
true.
to say, you know, our reputation is very good, customers value what we do, and we'd love to support new customers, deliver value for them as well.
You'll have to get some shirts done with little stars so that every time you get an award, you put a star on the shirt and start collecting them like they do with the football players.
Yeah, every time they deliver a great experiment, you know, they'll have it. They could
Now, the other question I wanted to ask you was that you talked about obviously a lot's happened at Abzena in the last 10 years, but actually a lot's been happening at Abzena over the last 6 months. Actually, you've been in the news a
Mm.
lot in a positive way.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of stuff that you've been doing, and also you've had a lot of additions to the leadership team as well and your capabilities. So, what can you share? Because I know it's always very difficult, which is some things you want to keep top secret. But what can you share about what can we expect from Abzena going forward?
So, I mean, you're right to recognize that, and that's really towards the growth of the business. You know, we discussed the award, the recognition. You know, more people are going to hear about Abzena, and we have a lot of expertise that I wouldn't, I don't, I mean, being cynical, Scott, whatever. I never like to use the term USP. You know, everybody's got their USP, and they're all the
But
same.
I'll have to say, I mean, I interview a lot of CDMOs, and I think that's the biggest challenge for any CDMO is how do you differentiate yourself from the vast array of CDMOs out there. So, yeah, awards are great to have because obviously that is it helps you to differentiate yourself to a degree with your
Yeah.
competitors, and there are competitors out there. You can't ignore the fact that there are other companies out there.
Yeah, but where I would say that we excel, and it's kind of the foundation for the kind of optimism and bullishness around the growth and
Sure.
the changes that we made to the leadership team. All of this is in preparation for that expected growth. So the foundation of that, you know, the scientific sort of brain juice, I call it. So at the front end of the business, you know, we've got a great breadth and depth of scientific expertise, technical capabilities, and that kind of goes across the whole business, you know. So that goes from that front end in terms of the design to lead selection of the molecules, through into, you know, process development, scale up, manufacture, drug release, and testing, etc. And the ability to find solutions for especially these emerging new modalities. So I think whether it's not arguably a USP, it altogether is kind of a USP. It's
Right.
something that actually has us stand out. So as we're seeing now, particularly with the new, I mean, we've developed the leadership over the last couple of years, I would say, into new leadership, with a focus on that growth, with a focus on the potential, and we're seeing it come through now. So, you know, we're filling out all our sites, which is really great. We've got a lot of pressure, I would say, from our current customers to get to phase 3, to get to commercial, and plans for that are well and truly underway. Um, but also, we need to be prepared to think about, organic versus inorganic growth as well. So, Taylor's joined us to help us look at that a lot more strategically.
Can I just say, I mean, people watching this, they may not know who Taylor is and what you mean. So, who is Taylor and
So
what does he?
Taylor's joined us as our Chief Business Officer. And, it's not a role we've had at Abzena, but his role really is to help us think about, where our gaps are, have we any gaps, do we need to, invest for that growth internally, and build out those services internally, or should and could we acquire those so that we build rapidly, and at the same time, bring that customer base to the business. So yeah, I think a great new addition to the team. So a big focus on growth, big focus on actually new technologies as well, or developing our current technologies. And we spoke earlier on about, speed and efficiency. A lot of that's technology based, cell line, but also an optimal design of drugs. So, some of the technologies associated with ADCs, linkers, bioconjugation technologies, even payloads. So, we're going to continue to develop that. We've got our proprietary technology. There's other technologies that we can build for ourselves, but then in licensing as well. And again, having a CBO that can help us, manage that kind of activity. It allows us to open up our expertise and open up the opportunities to bring new customers to Abzena.
Brilliant. Well, that's a fitting way to end this conversation. But Campbell, I really enjoyed our conversation. It's lovely to meet you for the first time. Lots of success for the future. Sounds like it's really exciting times at Abzena, and congratulations again for the award, because it is well deserved and it is a very competitive market. So
Yeah,
to win any award in this market is well deserved as well. So
yeah,
congratulations on that.
appreciate that.
Viewers, if you'd like to learn more about Abzena, then first of all, you can follow them on LinkedIn, go to the website, but also you can meet them at many events across North America, Europe, and the rest of the world. I say that because I see them at so many events that I go to myself, and I don't go to all of them. And I know there are lots of other events that I'm not at. So make sure you meet them in person as well and learn more about what they do. But if you've got any questions for Campbell based on what you said, feel free to put them in the comments below this interview, but also feel free to send him a message on LinkedIn as well. I'm sure he'll be only too happy to answer any questions you may have. So Campbell, it's been lovely to meet you once again. Thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to
Thank
me
you, Ruben.
today. And viewers, thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye bye.